Hello and welcome to today's video. Today reviewing this. This is the entry fountain pen from Gravitas pens, and this is the copper version. I've put a little Kaweco clip on it there, but it doesn't come with that. But I'm reviewing this pen today. I've had it in my collection for 9 or 10 months now. I have used it a lot, but yeah, let's see how this pen performs. So please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all of that kind of stuff. Memberships are available to this channel, where for a small monthly fee, you can join what I call the stationary drawer and throw some support in the way of this channel. For that, you'll get priority comments, you'll get members only content, you'll get early access to each of my videos, and once we've got a nice little community going, there will be members only Q&As as well. But right now, let's talk about this pen, the Gravitas Pens Copper Entry Fountain Pen. So this is the Gravitas Pens Entry in raw copper. As you see, I've got the Kaweco clip on here. I'll take that off for the moment. I did a full unboxing of this pen, which I'll link to in the video description, but over this I'll just overlay a bit of vision of the pen when I first got it, so you can see it's sort of like more pristine finish, because this pen is copper. It does patina and it does mark, and I love that. It's one of the reasons I like copper and brass pens, is because they end up with some personality on them. Like for instance on this one, you can see where I've had the clip that's had less contact with the outside world. So I'm going to talk about the parts and features. We'll do a writing sample and then pros and cons and all that kind of stuff. So to start with, it is modelled off the Sentry model. Now this is the Delrin, which is a Sentry pen. You can see the Entry is like the slightly smaller version of that. You'll see that more in the size comparison, of course, but the Sentry model is this sort of shape, and so the Sentry Entry is the little brother of that, and is the when it came out was designed to be like a more entry level pen from Gravitas pens. We all know Gravitas has had has been around for a few years now, and it's really going from strength to strength now, but the Entry model is from its earlier sort of period. Top of the pen is this typically Gravitas peaked fitting, which I love. The cap swells and then sort of tapers ever so slightly. Little step down there onto the barrel. Not a huge step down, but noticeable. And then the entire barrel sort of tapers and we get another peaked end there. It is a twist cap pen, and it comes off in about 1 1/3 turns. And one of the upgrades to the new version of the Entry, the one I reviewed years ago, was the first version. This is the updated version. A couple of major sort of advantages of the new version are the triple start Acme threads and the Delrin liner in the cap, which means that those threads are super smooth. There's no clanky like metal on metal. There's a little bit of like, you hear the noise of the copper on those micro grooves on the section, but there's no sort of clanky sort of metal on metal threads there. There's no step down, and you get this nice sort of smooth threads there. And then we get onto this grip section, which isn't copper. It's the it's just a standard sort of metal section with the micro grooves, which the camera definitely won't pick up, but you can kind of hear them there. Pick up. Oh, there you go. And the section continues on, and then it's got a little taper on it, and then a flare on the end, and then we get this number 6 steel nib, which is branded with Gravitas, and I have it here in a fine, and there is the plastic bead. It's currently available in extra fine, medium, and broad. It is a cartridge converter pen, standard international, and it is provided with a converter. Now, I've had this pen for quite a while, so I've gone through many fills of this pen, different inks and things, and I really enjoy writing with it. That converter has held up perfectly fine for now. It's a fairly basic converter, but it does the job. There's a little O-ring just on the end of the threads there, and that O-ring really helps in locking the pen down when you put the barrel on, simply because like metal on metal can often sort of just come loose in your pocket. That's not going to happen here. And also then the cap threads onto the barrel, keeping it all perfectly tight as one piece there. The Entry pens post, and they post actually really, really well. They post deeply, and a lot of the weight then sits, particularly with this one, on the webbing of your hand. It's not a huge pen, so it fits quite comfortably. being copper, there's a lot of weight in that cap, and so you do feel the weight. I tend to write with this most of the time sort of unposted. I find it very, very comfortable, but you can absolutely post it and still be quite comfortable. It's just a little heavier sort of in the back of your hand there. It's a really nice, simple pen, but I love copper. I love the material. I love the weight of copper in my hand. It's just a lovely pen to sort of use and write with, and it's a design that I really personally quite enjoy. So for the size comparison today, I've got it alongside that Delrin Sentry there, and then the Lamy Safari, of course. You can see it's a little longer just by the peaked finials in the Lamy Safari, but it is slightly smaller and slightly narrower there than the Sentry. Uncapped, I think it still stands up really well along the side the Lamy Safari. With that number 6 size nib, it's a little longer there and still longer in the barrel. But, you know, end to end, it's considerably longer there. It stands up really well in terms of length alongside the full-size Sentry pen. Posted, it is considerably shorter there than the others, but that's one of its strengths. In pens like the original Parker 51, the Lamy 2000, of course, this Sentry. I remember saying in my initial review of the entry pen model, that it was one of my favorite pens posted. It just posts so deeply and securely and you know, comfortably, and that's really nice. But you can see it is considerably shorter there than the other pens. So what are the dimensions of the Gravitas Pens Entry Raw Copper? Well, it is 142 millimeters when it's capped, so it's a nice sort of size. 136.5 when it's uncapped, and it's 146 when it's posted. So it's only a couple of millimeters longer posted than it is capped, which is nice. The grip section around the middle there is a little over 9 millimeters, and around the widest point on the cap is about 13. So it's not, as I said, not a super huge pen. But the interesting point of this pen is actually the weight. So it's 71 grams when it's inked. 71 grams. Heavy copper pen. Every person I have given this pen to try out has commented on the weight. Some people love it. Some people say it's too heavy. I really like it. I particularly like it when it is unposted. This weight is about 44 grams and 27 is in the cap. So you are putting a considerable amount of weight, and considerable in comparison to the pen, on the back there. Now, as I said, it does sit on the webbing of the hand. So it's very comfortable, perfectly fine for that sort of format, but you do notice the extra weight in your hand. So let's do a writing sample now with the Gravitas pens. Entry Raw Copper. This has a number 6 steel fine nib. Now, I know Gravitas have used nibs from different places, so I'm not exactly sure where this one has come from. You know, who makes it and things like that, but it writes very, very nicely. The ink in this today is an ink from Tono and Lims, which is a brand I like some of their inks. This one is number 19, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of number 19 is, but if you search up Tono and Lims 19, you'll find this ink, and it's a lovely sort of earthy green. It's not super wet. It does a nice job. So let's do some writing. So there's a bit of a little sort of skip there. I have noticed that occasionally with this ink, not so much the pen, but with this ink, it is a relatively dry ink. And I chose it for this pen because this is a pen I EDC carry, especially once I put the little, you know, Kaweco Supra clip on it. It's a pen I use for everyday carry. It goes in my pocket or my pen case. It comes to work, those sorts of things. And you don't always have the full control over the paper you're going to be writing on. So this, you know, having a slightly drier ink is nice, but I have found with this, you know, it's a little skippy occasionally. I've not found that when I had Diamine Ancient Copper in here, which was a great match for the pen, as well as I think it was Monteverde Canyon Rust was another one of the inks I had in here at one point, and of course I've had Lamy Black, which is one of my sort of test inks. So yeah, this is a slightly drier, more finicky ink than those. In terms of wetness, it's not too bad. Like, as I said, this is a drier ink, and this is still putting down a nice amount of ink. Another reason why I chose a drier ink, in a slightly wetter writing pen. Reverse writing is actually really nice. I like that a lot. Not a flex nib. You can squeeze a tiny little bit of variation out if you're careful, but I wouldn't be pushing it sort of too hard. Quick writing. Yeah, a couple of spots where it sort of thinned out ever so slightly, but I've not really noticed too many sort of issues with this pen in writing, particularly with wetter, more sort of consistent inks. The pen writes nicely. It's smooth, like there's no issues there whatsoever, and with its natural weight, it writes very well under its own weight. So my suggestion would, with this pen, like in my own collection, and yours may vary, is that maybe a wetter ink for a more sort of consistent, flowy writing experience. It is still a fine nib, and it does write on the relatively fine side. So that was me not lining it up properly. It does write fine. But it's a nice fine. But yes, with a wetter ink, this pen writes absolutely beautifully. But even with this sort of slightly drier ink, we're still getting quite a nice writing experience. Just a few sort of little like skips and sort of hard starts and things like that. So the entry in raw copper, when you buy it from Pen Venture, is €100. So it's not an inexpensive pen, but for a nicely machined copper pen with a good nib, cartridge converter, comes with a converter, all those things, I think €100 is an okay price point for this. Gravitas pens are not super cheap, but please remember, even though they are manufactured overseas, Gravitas pens and Ben Walsh are Irish, Pen Venture and Emmy are in Europe. The pens are made outside of that zone. We know that. But they are not like super mass produced, and every stage is still overseen by Ben. Every stage is checked, and there's even a lot of finishing that Ben does. So €100 for a pen like this is not bad. I do suggest you get it from Pen Venture, and I have included the link down below. Pen Venture, Emmy there is amazing, and you will get great customer service, and that's one of the massive advantages of buying Gravitas pens now, is the fact that you can get them from Pen Venture, as well as other retailers around the world, but that's where I suggest you go. It's more the most direct method, if you will. So €100 for this pen. So what are the pros and cons of this pen? Well, it doesn't have a clip or a roll stop. That can be countered by using the clip for the Supra from Kaweco, which just sort of slides on, and it's nice and secure on there. I have used this in pen cases, in my pocket, things like that, and had no issues. The other thing is that it is a little back weighted, a little heavy when it is posted. So maybe not for like longer writing sessions like that, but I have done longer writing sessions with it unposted there. And then the other thing I found is that occasionally, and it might still be, once again, this ink, but recently I have found a few little ink starvation issues or little skips. So as I said, I have not noticed that with the other inks I've had in this pen. So choose your inks carefully. The ink you put in a pen does affect how the pen performs, so keep that in mind. So what are the pros? Well, the weight. I actually like that weight. I like the weight in my pocket, and then I like the weight and balance of this pen unposted for sort of proper writing sessions. It's great. I think the Delrin cap liner, amazing. The way that makes the threads, the way it keeps the seal, all that kind of stuff, really, really great. The nib is nice. It's smooth. It does beautifully with, as I said, with the right inks. It writes absolutely beautifully. I think that the pen posts really nice and deep, which is great. It's very comfortable. I love copper, and I love the way that it patinas and ages over time, and you get your life on it. I kind of think that's beautiful. You can polish it up. Just get a jeweler's cloth and polish the pen, and it will come back to its sort of natural original shine, and if that's what you want to do, that would be beautiful as well. I like seeing the patina on these pens. And then I just think the general design of this pen is really beautiful. Ben does a beautiful job of creating pens that, while, they're not groundbreaking visually from the outside, they just combine all those elements that make a very comfortable pen. The micro grooves, the shape of the section, how well it posts, all that kind of stuff. It's a beautifully designed pen, beautifully made, great build quality, and this copper version, super robust and sturdy. So I hope you found my review of the Gravitas Pen's copper entry fountain pen to be interesting and useful. It's a pen I love. It's a nice chunky pen. I've really enjoyed using it and will continue to do so. So like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, become a member if you like. I'd love to see you all there in the stationery drawer. Yeah, all the links to Gravitas and everything are down in the comments below. So until next time, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.